those that tasted the bite of his sword named him the Doomslayer.
Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thanks to your vote, today we are reviewing Doom. Directed by Cowell. How do you say that? Cowiak. I'm really sorry if I've butchered that. Directed by Cowiak. How the fuck? Starring Dwayne Johnson, Karl and Rosamund Pyke. Based on the popular video game series, sort of. The Rock leads a group of Marines into an abandoned science lab in outer space, which seems to have been attacked by an unidentified species. Before we go any further though, could you be a dear and hit those magic buttons below? Preferably the like button if you could, and the subscribe button while you're at it if you haven't already. It really does help me and the channel massively. We have a lot of content coming up in the coming weeks, so you won't be missing out. And while you're at it, if you could give us a follow on Instagram, I'll put a link in the description below. You get to vote on polls, tournaments, and even choose what I review. And of course, we thank you if you do. I forgot to say that on the last one. Put your seatbelts on, people, because we're in for a ride. Doom is one of the funniest bad movies that I remember being released in my own lifetime, that I physically went to a cinema and watched it and remembered being a little bit about it at the time. And I still am a little bit about it, but I like it now for just how stupid it is. There is no character set up, there is no world set up, to be brutally honest. They give you 5 minutes of taste of what's to come in the opening sequence where the attack is happening, but it's so poorly done and so rushed with next to no explanation whatsoever that you don't really care. There's also really weird ticks and bits and bobs to people's performances that you can't help but notice. There's a guy who blinks obsessively. I mean, it's literally like this every time he's talking, and you just can't stop watching him blink. If you took a shot every time he blinked, you'd be wasted within the first 5 minutes of this movie. It's incredible.
This is Dr. Carmack. Classified research, Alderai, ID 6627.
I love that the character setup or character development that this movie thinks is acceptable is that there's a group of Marines, they're about to go on leave, they're very excited to go on leave. Now they're not going on leave because The Rock's got a mission. They try and do a character arc with this one dude, but I genuinely don't know what they were thinking or why this stayed in the movie. But you've got a guy who cuts himself every time he uses the Lord's name in vain. But even that doesn't go anywhere. It's completely forgotten about. It has no purpose to be here. I love it. It's so stupid. The dialogue in this movie is probably the worst thing about it. It's so ear-scraping. There's not much that's actually funny about it. It's one of the things in the movie that's just bad. You can't really have fun with the dialogue here. You don't even need to listen to what they're saying, because if you do, you'll notice they're just saying a load of rubbish. It's big word attached to big word, and then a filler word attached to some more big words. It's shit like, this is just off the top of my head, but this literally could be a line in the movie. The quantum carbonator has ejected the serum. Just do that and you've got the script of this movie. And the sets, oh good lord. It's a little disappointing actually, because in some scenarios towards the beginning, the sets actually look okay. There is a bit of creativity to it. It's not the most eye-catching thing. I'm struggling to do this review with a straight face, oh my lord. It's not the most eye-catching sets you've ever seen. There's nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but you can look at it and appreciate it and say, hey, someone put some effort in there, well done, because nobody else did. But even then, the sets just change into what I can only describe as a laser tag shooting arena. This is meant to be a science lab. No wonder the whole thing went kibosh. They're walking around in pitch black tunnels. Of course a science disaster is going to happen in that scenario. What were you thinking? We're in the future and yet we're failing basic health and safety. I mean, you don't have to be well versed in it to know that good lighting makes a good working environment. I actually think there's one scene where the gore, I think, is actually quite good, but it is just that one scene, and it's still hilarious. The blinky guy from earlier that I told you about, well, they find him, and for absolutely no reason, with no explanation, he just decides to literally rip his ear off and yell at them. It's great. Why? I don't know, but it's funny.
Why did you do that? Funny.
It looks quite convincing. That's what I like about it. Like, when he rips it off and you get a squirt of blood, I'm like, oh, wow, damn. That was good. But it's probably the only scene in the movie where there is genuine blood. In a Doom movie, I've clearly got a little bit lazy with my note-taking here because I've literally just put, the lighting is horrible in this movie. I mean, it is. And underneath I've put, this so wants to be aliens, it couldn't lace the boots of aliens. Again, fairly accurate. My favourite scene in the movie, again, makes me laugh when it shouldn't, is the bit where the zombie, or I'm calling them a zombie because they're basically zombies in this movie. They're not hell mutants or anything of what the game does. They're just zombies. They're science lab workers who've turned into zombies. That's it. But doesn't stop my favourite scene from being the bit where the zombie smashes his head against a window and he recoils as if it genuinely hurt. Like, oh my god, I laugh out loud every single time on that scene. You look at his face and you see him go, fuck, that hurt. Even more disappointing about this movie is that the action is really hard to see. Mentioning that the lighting is poor earlier, oh god, I feel sorry for epileptics watching this movie. I'm not even taking the piss. Genuinely, I'd be careful. If you have epilepsy, maybe don't watch this film, because it is pitch black, and any time there is action, which sadly is very infrequent for a Doom movie, you just get the flash of the guns firing in all directions. I watched the movie in the dark and I noticed how much my living room was being lit up by the flash muzzle of these guns. That's not good. That isn't great action. They do put the BFG in this movie, but it gets 2 shots and both of them go directly into a wall. That's what the fans wanted, but this scene, the magnum opus of what is Doom 2005. The Rock just turns heel out of nowhere. Nowhere at all. There's no setup, there's no build up to it, there's no Chekhov's gun in the first act that might suggest this happens later. No, it just fucking happens. Oh, to be a fly on the wall when this film was being written would have been amazing. I genuinely hope that's what heaven looks like for me. The poster boy, and arguably the biggest selling point of the movie, becomes the villain in the last 10 minutes without any setup whatsoever. And what's crazy about it is, on some level, it works because you don't expect it and you're actually caught off guard by the movie for a change. And the film actually gives you action. Oh my god, it's unbelievable. Doom has action in it. But it's hilarious because they just put some demon makeup on The Rock and he looks ridiculous. And if that isn't going to make you happy, you do get to finish off with a 5-minute Doom tribute towards the end where you're basically seeing the movie through the eyes of how you would in the game. All you can see is the gun and all you can see is what it's aiming at and what it's shooting at. And you'd think there'd be a lot more of that in the movie, and you'd also think that they maybe would put some effort into that bit in the movie. All of the deaths in that bit are really funny. Again, unintentionally funny. Like, there's a guy who just grins at the camera and then he just gets his head blown off. So that's Doom. Thank you for making me suffer. I'm really glad I had some alcohol to get myself through this one. Cheers, lads. Lovely. But it wasn't so bad after all. I still had a lot of fun with this one. I am going to give Doom a 1 out of 10. This is an enigma of a movie to me. It really is. I don't understand how this is the final product. For all of the pitch meetings, the script writing sessions, the actors meeting up and doing table reads, every monotonous step of making a movie, this was the final product. I'm genuinely curious as to how. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and please be sure to give us a follow on Instagram. There is a link in the description below so that you get access to further content, polls, tournaments, and choose what I review. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.